And happy St. Paddy's Day, everyone. I'm Randy Rogers here, live coming to you from Bend, Oregon, testing out my system here, getting ready for my new show that I've put up one post on already about the show I'm going to be producing called Timeline. And so I'm testing out, I've got the chroma key working now and testing out the audio and also trying to the broadcast. I tried it this afternoon and it went up on a couple of the sites. It didn't go up on my profile. Hopefully you're seeing this on the Facebook profile. I'll find out when I'm all finished with it. But in the meantime, I wanted to tell you about the show and how it's going along. I'm working on getting the guests in line, and I found quite a few of them here. Let me pull up a couple of them and I can show you who we've got coming on the shows. First off, I've got Bob Dotson, who I used to work with at NBC News. He was a correspondent there for over 40 years, and he did a show called American Story, and his show was about him looking for ordinary people that did extraordinary things. And I was fortunate enough to work with Bob on one of the shows back in '86 that we did, and they're just the best. I can't tell you what a great storyteller he is. He can take anybody's life and make it interesting, whether it's interesting or not, but he always found interesting people. And it's amazing how many interesting people there are out there across the country that, you know, they don't get their story told every day. And Bob he'd go to the ends of the earth, and he literally did. He's been everywhere around the world covering these kind of things. So I'm going to have him here talking about stories and how stories are what make up our life and the timeline. So we're going to be discussing all the things about what makes a good story, how to tell stories, and how you should, start to record your own story of your own life. And let's see here. Next up, I'm going to go to, if I can get it to come up here, Dick Sutphin. He is the guru of past life, reincarnation, stories about it. He's written over 20 books on the subject. His first one was the biggest hit. It was back in 1976. He wrote "You Were Born Again to Be Together," and that book was a bestseller. And Dick is the guy who trained me in knowing how to use hypnosis to do past life regressions. And so he's got tons and hundreds of stories to tell. So we're going to have a great show with him online here. Now, another person I'm bringing up here, let me see if I can. I actually went to I don't know why it keeps cutting to the wrong picture here, but anyway, there you go. This is an astrologer friend of mine, James Higgens III, and he's been an astrologer to a lot of famous people. Doris Duke, he spent a lifetime with her doing, and she was a socialite, once called the richest girl in America. He's going to talk to us about astrology and how it really is the roadmap to your life, because everything starts from there. When you're born, the date, time, place, it's all important. And I'm going to have him talking to us, showing us, how to understand and read your astrological forecast first of all, but he'll have a lot of good stories to tell. Now, I don't know if let's see if Bonnie's picture will stay up there. It won't stay up for some reason, but let me go on to Jennifer Weigel here. Now, this woman here is a good close friend of mine. She's out of Chicago, and she's a journalist. I met her when we were doing the press junkets. She used to come and do the movie reviews, but she's done all kinds of reporting over the years and won a lot of awards for her reporting out of there. But what's famous about her now is when she had a famous father, actually, who was a sportscaster in Chicago, and when he passed away, she felt this deep loss. They were really connected, and she wanted to find out how she could keep that connection going with him after he passed. And so she started on this search to find out, find anyone. She didn't trust, just psychics to tell her things, but she was trying to see her own connection with her dad. And she wrote a book called "I'm Spiritual, Damn It." And it was a hit. And then she went on to a couple more books, and this is her latest one out now, "Psychics, Healers, and Mediums," where she's traveled around the country interviewing famous, all these top mediums, psychics, and healers: Thomas, John, Carolyn Miss, Rebecca Rosen, Paul Selig, and Concetta Bertotti. So this book, I'm interested. I just got it in the mail from her a couple days ago, and I'm going to read it, and then we're going to have her on the show. Now, this is guy, I just saw his movie. He's out of Australia, Bill Bennett, filmmaker, and he has an interesting story. He was driving in his car one night, and as he was coming down the street, a voice called out to him clearly, and he heard it saying, "You got to slow down, you got to slow down." And so he jams on the brakes and slows down, and just then in front of him, a truck ran a red light through an intersection, and I mean, we're talking a semi-truck would have just creamed him and killed him, and he knew that the only reason that he wasn't dead was because he heard this voice telling him to slow down, and he did it. And so he started an around-the-world search trying to understand where intuition comes from, where this voice comes from in your head, and everyone has it. And the movie is incredible. He calls it PGS, the PGS movie, and the PGS stands for Personal Guidance System. So that movie's out right now, and he's going to be traveling here to the U.S. in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to have him on the show as well. Now, one of the last guys here that I just got his books on is Barry Eaton, and he's also out of Australia. He's written books on the afterlife, and in fact, his latest book, I guess, is No Goodbyes, and it's all about what happens after you pass on. And he's a psychic, and he's done a lot of work in the area of getting people to understand that you don't really die, and there is something happening afterwards. So he's going to be an interesting guest to have on the show as well here. So I'm starting to get a good lineup of people, and that's just a few of them. I've got dozens more here that I'm going to be lining up, and we just got to find a kickoff date for the show, and I want to make sure everything's working. So I've got to test out the bringing in the guest part yet, and that's what I want to. If anybody out there wants to do a little test practice with me here, just send me a private message on my Facebook, or I don't care if it's private or not, just set it on underneath this broadcast, and we'll connect up. I'll send you a link, and then we'll do a little test, pull you in as guest, and make sure everything's working, because there is a lot going on here trying to get this up online, and right now I'm broadcasting it onto just my profile page on Facebook and also onto my YouTube account. Like I said earlier this afternoon, I tried putting it up onto two other pages that I run, my Key of Life page and my TELEFILM page, along with the profile page, and it all crashed at about 5 minutes in. It didn't go much further, but the YouTube account kept going, so you go figure. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's crazy stuff here. It's complicated. And then to complicate things even further, I get an email from my son yesterday, who's over in Montana working, and they're going to have a couple of weeks break here while the spring thaw comes, because they can't work in the mud when it starts thawing out there. And he's doing lumber work out in the mountains. And so he sends me a text message and says, "Do I want a baby goat?" I said, "No, I don't want to. No, not really." And I was laughing. I thought he was joking. And so he sends me another email back. "Well, I'm bringing one home with me." And he sends me over this picture of this goat. It's a pygmy, a Nigerian pygmy goat, I guess. And he's bringing it home with him tomorrow. So that combined with our Australian shepherd ought to be some interesting events going on here tomorrow afternoon. Well, he won't get in until later in the day, but we'll see how that's all going to work out or play out. But there's always something crazy going on around here. And this morning it was snowing, and now it's all dried out and gone again. So, I mean, when I woke up this morning, everything was white, and it disappeared by 10 o'clock and was gone. So winter's still hanging on here a little. Had a great dinner tonight with it being St. Patrick's Day. I made corned beef cabbage and all the stuff with it, and so everything it's turning out to be a good day and a good weekend, and hopefully this test is working well. And if you want to be part of the round robin test. I can put I can bring up to 7 guests onto the show. I'm saying most of my shows are going to be just one-on-one with the guest, but there's a lot of people where I want to bring in maybe 2, 3, 4 people that are going to talk about it, especially some of the stuff we did back in the day in the television news. Hopefully I'm going to get some of the people I worked with in there, some more people, and they have a lot of interesting stories to tell. So anyway, I just want to say again, happy St. Patrick's Day, and I hope the test is going well. And if you see it, hit a like on it or something so I know that it's out there and people are watching it. And we'll be talking soon.